everyone. My name is Rachel Loewen Walker, and I'm your NDP candidate for Saskatoon West.
Woo! Hey, yeehaw.
Today, I am joined by Melissa McGillivray, our NDP candidate for Saskatoon University, Jacob Gadzella, our NDP candidate for Saskatoon South, Caitlin Stadnick, our candidate for Regina Wascana, and Britt Bauman for Moose Jaw, Lake Centre, Lanigan. Thank you all for being here. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are gathered here on Treaty 6 territory. This is the home of the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, and the homeland of the Métis. We deeply honor the First Nations and Métis ancestors of this land. Through this acknowledgement, we reaffirm our commitment to act in reciprocity, to seek truth, and to advance reconciliation. We also share that it is Indigenous Nurses Day today on April 10th. We're standing today in front of Saskatoon City Hospital, a hospital where just a few weeks ago, the emergency room was forced to start closing early because of staffing shortages. These reduced hours will last until the end of June, meaning families who need urgent care at night will be turned away. Seniors, children, and vulnerable people will be left with nowhere to go when they need help the most. This is what happens when governments cut public services, and this is what's at stake with Mark Carney's plan. To speak more about what it's like to face these hardships every single day, I'm proud to introduce Melissa McGillivray. Not only is she a candidate here in Saskatoon, she is a registered nurse who works at St. Paul's Emergency Centre. She knows firsthand what underfunding looks like on the front lines. Please join me in welcoming Melissa.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for that kind introduction. My name is Melissa McGillivray, and I am the candidate in Saskatoon University. As an RN working here in Saskatoon, I've seen firsthand what happens when healthcare is underfunded. Every day at work, we face staffing shortages, we see packed emergency rooms, we have long wait times. Patients, families, seniors, and kids, they're the ones who pay the price. When I hear about Mark Carney's plan to make billions of dollars in cuts to public services, I think about what it means for hospitals just like this one. It means fewer nurses at the bedside. It's going to mean even longer ED wait times. It means more families being told there's no room, there's no help, there's no care. Healthcare workers like me are already stretched to the limit. We need real investment in public health care, and we need support for people on the front lines. That's why I'm proud to stand here with the NDP. We're the only ones fighting to protect and to strengthen the services that families count on. Thank you so much for your time today. I'll turn it back over to Rachel.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing your experience and the incredible work you do every single day for people in our community. New Democrats are standing up to say enough. We are fighting to protect public health care, protect the services families depend on, and make sure no one is left behind. That's why I am proud to introduce someone who has always fought to protect public health care, defend working families, and stand up against cuts that hurt our communities. Please join me in welcoming the leader of the NDP, Jagmeet Singh.
That was awesome. So well done. Great job. Great job. Great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. And you just got a taste of why you need to vote for New Democrats here. You've got some incredible leaders here who are going to fight for you. Thank you very much for the introductory comments. And yeah, we're here to talk about healthcare. In the context of the trade war, the roller coaster ride that is Donald Trump and the threats to our country, a lot of Canadians are worried about what that means for them. And they're worried about their lives in their communities. And so it's a time now that we've got to double down and strengthen the things that make us Canadian, that make us who we are. So we believe in strengthening healthcare and investing in healthcare, and most importantly, supporting our healthcare workers. I'm really proud that we've got nurses standing with us today because these are some of the incredible frontline healthcare workers that we need to support. But what I'm seeing more and more is Canadians are looking at the plans of the other leaders. They're seeing that the deep cuts proposed by Pierre and the Conservatives, that's not good for them. That's not good for their family. That's not good for this country. And so more and more Canadians are rejecting the conservative cuts. Now they're taking a look at Mark Carney, and they're seeing that he's sadly talking about cuts as well. He's repeated that he would cut. He said again and again that his plan is to cut services. He has also told us where he would cut those services. He said he would cut the operating budget. And he's also defined what that means. He said what the operating budget is. He said it means healthcare. It means pensions. It means supports for people living with disabilities. It means GST and HST credits. He has defined the operating costs, and he's told us that he's going to cut them. But he hasn't told you how much. And so today we're announcing what he's going to cut is actually $43 billion in investments in you and your family. $43 billion of cuts. What does that mean for Saskatchewan? That's $300 million of cuts here in Saskatchewan, and that could be more than 3,000 nurses cut immediately. Imagine our healthcare system that is already struggling. You just heard about closures of ER rooms. A healthcare system that's struggling with 3,000 less nurses. Imagine how much worse that would be. That's what we're up against right now. That's the cost that Mark Carney is proposing. He's proposing, his plan is to cut. And I think it's the wrong thing to do right now. At a time when Canadians are worried, we should be strengthening our healthcare system. We want to see less wait times, not longer. We want to see more frontline healthcare workers, not less. We want a stronger healthcare system, not a weaker one.
Yes.
And so our plan is this. We're going to fight back. If you are worried about the deep cuts of Pierre Poilievre and you want to reject Conservatives, and you're also worried that Mark Carney is proposing to cut the things that you care about, vote for a New Democrat. My commitment to you is New Democrats will never support a budget that cuts the things that you need. We will never support a budget that cuts healthcare, which is such a Canadian value, the one that we hold so dear. We will never allow that to happen. We will always fight back. So if you live here in Saskatoon, vote for these incredible New Democrats who are going to fight for you. If you live in Regina, vote for New Democrats. New Democrats beat Conservatives here in Saskatchewan. So if you want to fight back against Conservatives and say no to cuts to our healthcare, vote for a New Democrat. And I want to add just one more thing. What I find even more worrisome about Mark Carney's plan is he's proposing all these cuts. His plan is to cut these things that you care about. At the same time, he wants to give bigger cuts to millionaires and billionaires. He wants to give them tax cuts while he cuts your services. I think that's wrong. It makes it even more painful to hear that his plan is to take away from you to give to millionaires and billionaires. We're not going to let that happen. Donc, on est dans un temps d'incertitude. On a des peurs à cause de Donald Trump et les menaces de Donald Trump. Et dans cette incertitude, c'est le temps de défendre nos valeurs, défendre ce qui est cher à nous. Et ce qui est cher à nous, c'est notre système de santé universel et public. Je suis fier d'avoir des infirmières avec nous aujourd'hui parce que ce sont les travailleurs sur la première ligne de notre système de santé. Et vous avez entendu nos candidates et candidats dans les régions. On est tellement fiers d'avoir des candidates de qualité. Vous devez voter pour ces gens si vous voulez avoir quelqu'un qui va se battre pour vous. Donc, dans ces temps d'incertitude, on pense qu'on doit investir davantage dans notre système de santé et le défendre. Mais Mark Carney propose de couper. Et elle a déjà dit à plusieurs reprises qu'il propose, son plan, c'est de couper les services dont vous avez besoin. Elle a aussi défini c'est quoi les services. Elle a dit qu'il va couper dans les pensions, les soins de santé, l'aide aux gens. Elle a dit ça clairement. Aujourd'hui, on va clarifier combien il va couper. Son plan, c'est de couper 43 milliards de dollars. 43. Ça veut dire ici en Saskatchewan, 300 millions de dollars. Et qu'est-ce que ça veut dire comme impact réel? Ça veut dire 3 000 moins des infirmières. Dans un temps où on a déjà un manque de travailleurs dans le système de santé, 3 000 moins des infirmières, ça va faire mal à notre système. Donc, si vous avez peur de ces coupures, j'ai une solution pour vous. De plus en plus, les gens me disent que les gens commencent à rejeter les coupures de Pierre Poilievre et les conservateurs. Ils pensent que ce n'est pas les bonnes choses à faire. Donc, ils rejettent cette approche. Mais les gens maintenant regardent le plan de Mark Carney et ils ont peur des coupures. Si vous voulez quelqu'un qui va dire non à ces coupures, quelqu'un qui va se battre contre les coupures dans notre système de santé et qui va défendre notre système de santé, votez pour l'NPD. Mon engagement, c'est l'NPD ne va jamais appuyer un budget où il y a des coupures dans notre système de santé, où il y a des coupures dans les services dont nous avons besoin. Pour nous, le choix est clair. On veut défendre vos intérêts, pas celles des milliardaires. Et ce qui est pire encore, que Mark Carney propose de couper vos services pour donner des coupures des impôts pour les milliardaires. Et c'est la mauvaise chose à faire. Je ne suis pas d'accord avec ça. Et ça, c'est encore pourquoi je dis, si vous voulez défaire un conservateur et envoyer quelqu'un qui va se battre pour vous, votez pour l'NPD. On est là pour défendre vos intérêts, défendre les gens, pas les milliardaires. Merci. Thank you so much. And with that, I'm ready for any questions you might have.
Merci beaucoup. Maintenant, on va passer à la période de questions des journalistes. Une question et une relance par journaliste. We'll now take the questions from the press. One question, one follow-up. We'll begin with Mike Lecouteur, CTV.
Mr. Singh, thanks for taking our questions. Today you're taking shots at somebody else's budgetary plans. Would an NDP government balance the budget?
We understand that people are worried about spending, and we understand how serious that is. We obviously want to live within our means. What's the context we're in right now? We've got a trade war. We've got a tax from Donald Trump, a potential recession. We think cutting the services that people need is the wrong thing to do at a time like this. We've laid out how we would increase revenue. We've talked about how we could close offshore tax havens. We could actually enforce the tax code for companies that are not actually paying their fair share, just collect the taxes we owe, and how we could raise tens of billions of dollars by doing that. We talked about ending things like fossil fuel subsidies, that we should be not giving public money to highly profitable companies. Instead, that's where we can make cuts. But we will never cut services that people need. We will never cut in healthcare. We want to strengthen healthcare. We want more healthcare workers. We want to help out the nurses that you see beside me. These are the frontline healthcare workers that we need to defend and support. We don't want to cut there. So while we've got to be very prudent where we spend our money and how we allocate our resources, we cannot cut the things that people need in a recession. We've got to support people and stand up for them. And that's why I'm particularly worried about Mark Carney's plan.
With respect, that didn't really answer the question. Would you ever commit as Prime Minister to balancing the budget?
Well, we're committing to increasing revenue. We're committing to cutting costs associated with things that we think are wasteful, like using private consultants. That's hundreds of millions of dollars that we don't think should be spent. Giving money to highly profitable companies. That's something that we would cut. We would increase revenue. And the other parties, no one's talking about how to increase revenue. Mark Carney was asked directly the question about would he close offshore tax havens? A very reasonable thing. We should close them and we should have more revenues in the country. Instead, his answer was he's going to cut spending. He's doubled down on cutting spending. And he's going to cut the things that you care about. I think that's wrong. We'll release our fully costed budget and we'll have a sense of where we're going to go. But you can rest assured we're talking about increasing revenue through looking at closing offshore tax havens and loopholes where big, highly profitable corporations make massive profits and don't pay their fair share. And we're going to defend the things that people need. Defend your health care, defend your pensions, and protect Canadians.
Thank you. Next question, Ashley Burke, CBC.
Good morning, Mr. Singh. Yes or no, would you balance the budget?
So we're going to lay out our clear budgetary commitments and lay that out for you. But it's important to look at the context we're in. We're in a recession, or in a trade war that's going to potentially cause a recession. We're in a difficult economic situation. We're in a lot of threats to our country. We're in a lot of unpredictability. For anyone to suggest they know what's going to happen next is not realistic and not reasonable. We don't know what's going to happen next. But I do know that when there are economic downturns, I do know when there are recessions, it has always been the approach of Liberals and Conservatives to balance the budgets on the backs of workers. I will never do that. I can conclusively and concretely tell you, I will never balance the budget on the back of working people. That will never happen with New Democrats.
So it sounds like you're saying you're not committing to balancing the budget, and you're also pitching a minority government. What is your cost of support this time around?
So I can tell you that we were in a minority government recently, and everything that was achieved in that government that made people's lives better, dental care, pharmacare, protections for workers, only happened because people voted for New Democrats and we were able to fight to make those things happen. They were not going to happen otherwise. Liberals weren't just going to do it. We forced them to do it. If you want to see more of those things happen, if you want to see pharmacare expanded to cover more Canadians and cover more medication, vote for a New Democrat. If you want to see investments in healthcare and make sure a dental care program continues to provide care for more people, vote for a New Democrat. If you want to stand up to the cuts being proposed by Mark Carney, which sadly would make our healthcare in even a worse position, send a New Democrat from Saskatchewan, send a New Democrat from Saskatoon or Regina to fight back to defend against these cuts.
Merci beaucoup. Prochaine question, Valérie Gamache, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour, M. Singh. Hier, il était question d'élargir l'assurance médicaments. Aujourd'hui, bon, il y a cette lutte contre le budget équilibré. Êtes-vous en train de négocier une entente dans un futur gouvernement minoritaire plutôt que de faire campagne actuellement?
Je veux présenter nos priorités. Et les gens doivent savoir c'est quoi nos priorités. Qu'est-ce qu'on va faire dans n'importe quoi les gens décident de choisir comme gouvernement. Je veux partager nos valeurs et ce qui est prioritaire pour nous. Et pour nous, la priorité, c'est vous. On va vous défendre. On va défendre vos intérêts. On va défendre notre système de santé public et universel. Et on ne va pas laisser Mark Carney couper dans les services dont vous avez besoin. Et c'est important pour les gens de savoir c'est quoi le plan de Mark Carney. Il répète encore et encore qu'il va couper. Il a déjà dit où il va couper dans le budget pour l'opération et il a aussi défini c'est quoi ça. Il a dit ça c'est les transferts en santé, c'est les pensions, les services dont les gens ont besoin. Et aujourd'hui, on a défini le montant pour atteindre ces buts. Ça veut dire 43 milliards de dollars. Les gens doivent savoir ça parce qu'ils doivent avoir toute l'information avant de prendre des décisions. Si vous voulez quelqu'un qui va se battre contre ces coupures et défendre notre système de santé, c'est l'NPD.
Et puis, dans un autre dossier, il y a un parti, le Bloc québécois, pour ne pas le nommer, qui propose aujourd'hui la création d'un ministère des frontières, disant que l'Agence des services frontaliers n'est peut-être pas équipée pour faire face à la surveillance à la frontière, pour être vraiment s'assurer, tant pour le trafic d'armes que les migrants. Est-ce que vous appuieriez la création d'un tel ministère?
Je sais qu'il y a des problèmes sur notre frontière. Et on a proposé des solutions. On a proposé d'augmenter les nombres d'officiers qui travaillent sur la frontière. Les conservateurs ont coupé les nombres d'officiers dans le passé, les nombres de travailleurs. Les libéraux ont maintenu cette coupure. Donc, on veut renverser ces coupures et augmenter les nombres des gens qui travaillent sur nos frontières. Et aussi, en particulier pour le Québec, dans le passé, c'est clair que le gouvernement fédéral n'a pas fait sa part pour investir suffisamment de ressources pour répondre aux besoins sur les frontières au Québec. On doit régler ça, évidemment. Mais c'est important de montrer, quand on parle de bloc, ils parlent souvent d'être là pour les Québécois, mais ce qu'ils ont fait, c'est effectivement le contraire. Ils ont voté contre l'assurance médicaments et contre les soins dentaires, des deux programmes qui aident et qui peuvent aider des millions de gens au Québec. Ils ont voté contre ça. Donc, si vous voulez quelqu'un qui va se battre pour vous et votre famille au Québec, c'est l'NPD qui a déjà livré les marchandises et on va le faire encore.
Une question.
Bonjour.
Fanny Olivier, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour, M. Singh. On a vu dans des rassemblements de d'autres partis cette semaine des militants dire qu'ils ne croyaient pas les sondages et ne pas vraiment s'engager à reconnaître le résultat des élections. Alors aujourd'hui, on pose la question à tous les chefs de parti. Est-ce que, d'abord, vous croyez aux sondages? Et deuxièmement, est-ce que vous vous engagez à reconnaître les résultats le 28 avril?
Oh, évidemment, on va reconnaître les résultats. Ça, c'est clair. On est pour la démocratie. C'est dans notre nom. Évidemment, on va respecter les résultats. Je peux dire, dans mon cas, on a un exemple tellement récent, les élections en Ontario, où tout le monde a dit que le Parti néo-démocrate va disparaître. Ils ont dit ça. Et les NPD a fait mentir les critiques parce qu'on a gagné l'opposition officielle. Donc, ça, c'est pourquoi je ne crois pas tous les sondages. Et pour moi, ce qui est important, c'est dans cette élection, les gens savent le choix. Et le choix, c'est quelqu'un qui va se battre pour vous ou quelqu'un qui va couper vos services. Quelqu'un qui va défendre notre système de santé, quelqu'un qui va couper les investissements dans la santé. nous va défendre notre système de santé et Mark Carney propose de couper les services dont vous avez besoin. Obviously, we would accept the results of the election. We're New Democrats. Democracy is in our name, so of course we'd accept it. But in terms of the polls, we have a very recent example where many polls said that in Ontario, New Democrats would lose party status, and they formed official opposition. So of course I've got my doubts about the way that covers our support, that our support is not accurately being represented. But either way, what we're focused on in this election is a choice that people have. The choice is this. You've got someone that's going to fight to defend your health care, and you've got Mark Carney who's proposing to cut your health care. You've got someone that wants to invest in and strengthen our health care so it's there for you when you need it, and someone that wants to make it weaker. If you want to defend our public universal health care, vote for a New Democrat. We're going to stand up to the cuts that Mark Carney is proposing, and we will never support a budget that cuts the things that you need.
Et M. Singh, j'aimerais savoir quand est-ce que vous allez dévoiler votre plateforme chiffrée et si vous pouvez nous dire à combien va s'élever le déficit pour la première année budgétée.
On va livrer ça bientôt.
Et le déficit?
On va livrer ça bientôt aussi.
Thank you very much. Next question, Mia Olowechak, Siki Oe.
How would you address growing concerns in Saskatchewan over tariffs, particularly when it comes to canola, and how do you plan to work, or would you work with Premier Scott Moe on this?
We always have to work with all premiers at the federal level. It's an important part of the job, being able to work with different levels of government. Even if we disagree strongly with the way they're approaching the province, we have to find ways to work together. In Saskatchewan, and for a lot of the agriculture sector across Canada, this also applies to Manitoba, really it applies everywhere there is a strong agriculture sector. You've got a two-frontal war going on right now, a trade war from the United States and also some challenging tariffs from China, which has impacted agriculture sectors across our country. It's a serious impact. So we've got to get those tariffs removed. We also, similar to the situation with the United States, we've got to find ways to diversify our markets. Being very reliant on the United States has become a clear vulnerability. Also for our agriculture sector, being really reliant on China is also shown to be a vulnerability. So for all of our sectors, diversifying our trading relationships is vital. It's something that we've got to support those sectors to be able to diversify, find new partners, find new trading partners, find new markets where we can sell our products. We make some of the best products in the world, and we need to make sure that we are providing outlets and places to sell those products.
And the NDP isn't leading in the polls currently. What would you say to voters here in Saskatchewan who are unsure about supporting the NDP this time around?
Well, we know that for decades, Liberals have not been able to win in Saskatoon. They've not been able to have a seat here. So if you want to fight back against Conservatives, if your goal is to stop the Conservatives, and you're worried about Mark Carney's cuts, vote for a New Democrat. We have represented this city before. We can do it again.
Thank you. Prochaine question, Edith Boisvert, Radio-Canada.
Bonjour, Monsieur Singh. Justement, vous en parliez. Lors de la dernière élection provinciale, le NPD a vraiment été fort dans les centres urbains. Pourtant, selon les sondages, le NPD se fait couper l'herbe sous le pied par les libéraux dans les centres urbains. Comment vous expliquez que la popularité du NPD au provincial ne se transpose pas au fédéral?
On n'accepte pas que c'est la situation. Le vrai sondage, c'est la date finale de cette élection quand les gens vont voter. Et vous avez un choix. De plus en plus, je pense que c'est important de dire que les gens commencent à rejeter les coupures conservatrices de Pierre Poilievre. Je pense que c'est mauvais pour ma vie, c'est mauvais pour ma famille, c'est mauvais pour le pays. Donc, de plus en plus, les gens commencent à rejeter Pierre Poilievre. Et maintenant, les gens regardent plus clairement le plan de Mark Carney. Il continue de répéter son plan de couper les services dont vous avez besoin. Il ne le cache pas. Il le dit souvent, il le répète. Et il a aussi défini dans quel secteur il va couper. Il a dit qu'il va couper dans le budget pour l'opération. Il a aussi défini c'est quoi ça. Il a dit que l'opération, ça veut dire le transfert en santé, ça veut dire les pensions, ça veut dire les services dont les gens ont besoin. Il va couper ça et aujourd'hui, on peut dire que le montant qu'il va couper, c'est 43 milliards de dollars. Donc, si vous avez peur de coupure, vous avez un choix. Vous pouvez voter pour l'NPD pour défendre vos services, pour défendre notre système de santé, pour défendre nos valeurs. Parce que effectivement, Les soins de santé représentent nos valeurs, qu'on veut prendre soin les uns des autres. Donc, si vous voulez défendre ça, votez pour l'NPD.
Et finalement, au niveau de l'exploitation des ressources naturelles, quelle est la position de votre parti?
On pense qu'on doit utiliser les ressources, c'est essentiel dans notre pays. On a plusieurs ressources importantes et on a des critères pour comment le faire. On doit le faire avec l'acceptabilité sociale. On doit reconnaître et suivre les règles pour l'environnement parce que tous les Canadiens veulent défendre notre environnement. On doit créer des bons emplois pour les gens et on doit aussi respecter les droits des communautés autochtones. Donc, ce sont nos critères pour les projets. Et j'ai proposé un projet où je veux investir tout de suite. Ça, c'est un projet, une ligne électrique qui va traverser à travers le pays pour connecter les régions avec de l'énergie propre et l'énergie moins chère pour tout le Canada. Ça va réduire les factures d'électricité pour les familles. Ça va rendre plus d'accessibilité pour l'électricité propre et moins chère. Ça peut aider les industries, aider les gens, aider les familles et créer une économie plus forte.
Merci. Next question, Gates Guarin, Global News.
Thank you for taking my questions. Two of the biggest concerns here in Saskatoon and in Saskatchewan are both homelessness and overdoses. How would you address these concerns should you form an NDP government?
It's heartbreaking, first of all, just seeing the fact that we're in one of the world's richest countries. We're a G7 nation, and we've got people sleeping on the streets. And we've got people that are losing their lives to this opioid crisis, this overdose epidemic. It's heartbreaking. On both fronts, I believe that there are solutions. I know we can solve this. It's a matter of priority. So first, we've got to give people homes. We've got to house people. We can do this. There are solutions about housing. I really believe in a housing-first approach. If you can get someone in a home, we can figure everything else out. We can get people the supports they need to deal with, whether it's mental health or addiction services they need. We can make that happen. We can help people with employment. But housing people is the first step. So I really believe in that. And specifically related to the opioid addiction or the opioid crisis, a couple of things that I really believe. First and foremost, we got to get the toxic stuff off our streets. And instead of punishing people after the fact, we want to stop this before it happens. And for a lot of these really dangerous materials, dangerous drugs, they cross borders to get here. And we want to strengthen our borders to prevent this from coming into our country in the first place. The Conservatives cut border officers by 1,000 workers, and the Liberals maintained that cut. And I've spoken to border officers, and they said we need a lot more officers to do the work that we need to do to stop these materials from coming into our country. So that'd be my first step. Let's strengthen our borders and make sure we're stopping this material from coming in. And the second thing is I really believe we've got to follow the evidence. How can we save lives? How do we give people the supports they need and what works? We've seen more and more evidence that what we've got to do is respond to this epidemic with care and compassion. We've got to give people health care as a solution. We've got to give people access to rehabilitation services. Rehab is fundamental, having more beds available. We can solve this, but it has to take the priority of responding to this crisis like it's a crisis with urgent action, and New Democrats are prepared to do that.
You're meeting with the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations later on today. What do you hope to discuss or accomplish, and how will that factor into Indigenous policy should the NDP form government?
Well, for New Democrats, relationship with First Nations, with Inuit and Métis, with the first people of this land is fundamental for us. As a leader, I've always made it a priority to meet with Indigenous leadership wherever I go. So whether I'm in a campaign or out of a campaign, this is something that we do regularly. I've maintained a strong relationship with FSIN, and I look forward to meeting with Chief Bobby Cameron. And I look forward to always informing the policies, hearing from the community, and then responding with policies that will support and uplift people. We really believe in being allies, and allies mean walking the path together. For a long time, the approach has been one that's paternalistic, that Ottawa knows best. That's not going to move us forward. We have to walk together, and for me, that's respect, that's working in partnership, that's working in collaboration, and we're always motivated by the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People as our guiding light in terms of principles that we need to keep when we move forward.
Thank you. Last question, David Baxter, Canadian Press.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Singh. Dave Baxter here from CP. Just a few minutes ago, Mr. Carney responded to your claim that he would cut health care, saying, in short, no, he will not cut healthcare. He says he would reinforce healthcare. But even before that, on his campaign website that your own campaign sent us this morning, he says that during his plan to balance the operating budget, he wouldn't touch personal transfers or provincial transfers, which includes the health transfer. So is it misleading to say that Mark Carney would cut healthcare?
Well, let's just look at the facts. He has said again and again that he's going to cut spending. He has said that repeatedly. There's no one that's denying that he said he's going to cut spending. And he has specifically, his own words said, he's going to cut in the operating budget. He has said that, that's his own words. He has also defined the operating budget. The operating budget includes a number of items. It includes pensions, it includes healthcare transfers. That's his own definition. Even when asked about closing offshore tax havens, it's a very important question. He did not commit to closing offshore tax havens. In that response to Rosie Barton, he said, I'm going to cut spending, in response to a question on, would you close tax havens? He was so opposed to cutting tax havens that he actually talked about cutting spending. So there's no debate around whether he's going to cut spending. He's said that again and again. There's no debate about where he's going to cut spending. He has said it's going to be in the operating budget. And we're telling you today, to achieve his goals, that's going to be a $43 billion cut. How is he going to do that? What is he going to cut? What's in the operating budget? And how is he going to cut $43 billion out of the operating budget to achieve his own stated goals? That's going to be massive cuts. And if he's not going to tell you exactly where, we're going to point out that he is going to cut. It's going to be in the operating budget, like he said, and these are all the areas that he's going to cut.
But you said this. You said to take Mr. Carney at his own words, and his own words are he's not going to touch healthcare transfers. So is it misleading to say he is going to cut healthcare transfers?
Well, he's one of the things that we know that he said. He's talked about maintaining. Well, what does bankers speak for maintaining spending? Bankers speak for maintaining spending is freezing. Freezing is a cut. If you talk about healthcare, if you freeze investments in healthcare with an aging population, with a growing population, with increased needs, and with inflation, if you freeze, that is a cut. Freezing healthcare spending, maintaining healthcare spending is a cut. It's a cut when you talk to seniors and you talk to the frontline healthcare workers who know that the needs are only going up, the costs are only going up. If spending is frozen, it is a cut. So Mark Carney will cut. He has told us this again and again. He has said this in his own plans. He said this out of his own mouth. He is going to cut. And if you want someone that's going to stand up to those cuts, vote for New Democrats.
That concludes today's press conference. Thank you very much. C'est ce qui met fin à la conférence de presse d'aujourd'hui. Bonne journée.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.